Hello and welcome to Free the Mind UK. My name's Dave Carson, and tonight we've got a fabulous guest in the way of Matt Kendall. Going to bring him on in a minute, but before we do that, we're going to play the super duper intro video.
Not sure what therapy to choose? Free the Mind UK presents A Chat with a Therapist. Join us live for an up-close informal discussion of the various holistic therapies available, helping you make that important choice.
Welcome, Matt Kendall. How are you?
Where did you get that made? That's quite good, actually. Did you get
like
that?
it?
Yeah, did you get some
Fiver.
I was going to say, yeah, nothing's a fiver on there anymore, though, eh?
No, it was about $100, I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's not a fiver, is it?
For anyone who's watching that likes it and you want to get one off Fiverr. Matt, it's great to have you on tonight. I'm really excited about tonight because you're going to be talking about integral eye movement therapy, something I do myself, and you actually trained me. And really exciting stuff. So I was going to suggest, Matt, giving us a bit of a background, how you sort of came along it and got into it.
So, how old am I now? It was must be about 16, 17 years ago. I started getting into NLP and that kind of stuff. You know, it was, I think it was because of Paul McKenna, really. And also Darren Brown. I sort of found a bit of an interest in it. And I started going to some local NLP groups. I was massively disappointed. I thought I was going to go along to like all these amazing, super great people. And I went along and it was just really broken people. I was like, oh, this is not what I was thinking. And around the same kind of time, I can't remember the actual order of it, but I met this guy at a networking event. I was running an online print and design studio at the time, doing business cards, flyers, posters, that kind of stuff. And I met this guy and he said, do you want to be hypnotized for £10? And I went, yes. So I like a bargain. So I went to his office in Manchester and he hypnotized me and of course found things wrong. So I had to go back for like 6 more sessions, but I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the process of it. I found some of it a bit, but I thought this is actually quite an interesting thing. So I never understood the mechanics of it before. Mm-hmm. So I kind of went along more out of interest. He then at the end said, I think you should train in hypnotherapy. And I went, yeah, okay. So I did a lot of research and I did some local trainings in Manchester, like an in-person one, and I did some online ones, and I did. This is when I first started to discover just how dodgy a lot of the self-development and therapy, alternative therapy market is. For example, I bought an NLP practitioner course off eBay for £7.
Wow.
And it was basically copies of people's CDs of like Mark Cunningham, whatever he's called, and a few of the people, and it all like stage hypnosis as a bonus. I was like, I don't do stage hypnosis. I'm no interested. And anyway, to become a certified practitioner of NLP, I was given an oral exam over the phone where I had to answer 10 questions. At that time, I was at a place called Castlefield in Manchester for what was called Castlefest or something, a mini festival. Mm-hmm. And I had been drinking all day, and it was about sort of 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And this guy called me up, and he goes, oh, hi, yeah, and we're going to do your NLP thing. And I was like, okay. Right. And although I was quite drunk at a festival, it was appropriate that I'd passed the test. Wow. And I could therefore be an NLP practitioner. And it was a genuine thing as well, because I got sent the certificate and everything. Mm-hmm. And I thought this is an absolute joke. So I actually did a blog post, and I made a video of me just ripping it up. So this is just a worthless piece of paper. But I still got insurance because I had like hypnotherapy, so I did it to kind of prove that with hypnotherapy, with NLP, there's a lot of stuff that you can become a trainer without actually ever working with a client.
Absolutely.
Which I just find absolutely extraordinary. Mm-hmm. So I got into hypnosis. A lot of it I don't like. I don't like positivity in general. So I don't like people like Tony Robbins or people who just shout all the time. It's just like, calm down. You know, and I don't believe in sort of sticking big happy feelings on problems because you're creating time bomb.
Is this, Matt, because they're a bit like a plaster, just very temporary?
It's not even to do with that. That is part of it. It's more to do with the abuse on an industrial scale that goes on behind the scenes as well. The thing is, the way that I've seen NLP graduations, it's literally like a college graduation, and it's not. You've paid to do a week, you paid $1,000 to do a week, and now it's unfortunately it tended to be making less educated people feel important and clever, and somehow your NLP diploma is somewhat equivalent to a degree or a doctorate or something, and it's not at all. You know, it's nothing at all compared to it.
Of course.
But I did like a lot of the techniques in NLP, and I started following people like Cal Banyan, who does the 5-path and 7-path system. Tom Silver, who I interviewed the other week, who did emotional replacement therapy and scientific hypnosis. Who else? There was a few people, and I just really liked their style, their tools, their techniques. It wasn't just induction, deepener, intervention, awaken. It's keeping a lot of people awake, really, and doing things actually quite physical with them. And I really got quite interested in sort of the whole. I was getting people turning up because I was running in fact, I worked in a few places, but the majority of the work I was doing it was in a gym. It was downstairs in a gym in Manchester, but it was an Elemis spa. Brilliant. Okay. I had so many samples of things. It was great. And so I was working with a lot with the personal trainers.
Okay.
And they would send me people to help with weight loss, smoking, that kind of stuff, confidence. And people would turn up and expecting me to fix them and to walk out a different person. And I think that a lot of hypnosis is still kind of sold on I can stop you smoking 1 hour kind of stuff. And I've never been a believer in that. I think I can't. I'd like to explore why you smoke or why you do this. And I was doing something called 3D Mind, which is a Tom Vizzini and Kim McFarlane creation, which is all to do with finding resources and balancing stuff. Again, it's a very physical kind of thing. And when I say physical, it's like getting the client moving and doing stuff,
Right.
And I met this is showing my age. I met this guy on a forum, and he lived in Brighton, and he said, "Do you want to come down and visit me? And we can do some work on each other, and we can discuss therapy." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And so I went down. I didn't even know. When am I going to meet you? He says, "I'm."
I like your open-mindedness.
It's just I thought, why not?
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen? Going to see a strange man from a forum in Brighton? And so I went down to Brighton to meet him. I've forgotten his name now. Nice guy, and he said to me, "Tomorrow, do you want to come to a workshop by a guy who moves your eyes to do things in that?" And I went, "Yeah, that sounds great." So that's literally all the explanation I'd heard. Because the only thing about eye movement I'd heard was obviously my NLP training I did about eye accessing cues.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a bit from the beginning. I think there is some degree of truth, but people use it as like a diagnostic tool. And I've always thought, when I think of a negative experience or something, it's not just one thing.
Of course.
It's not just off the screen. It's not just one emotion. I've got everything you're talking about all going on at the same time. So what do you want? So I went along, and this is where I met Andy Austin, who's the creator of IEMT and also Metaphors of Movement. And it was quite a small room. There was about 16 people. It was a very hot day. And I come in and goes, "Matt, do you have a memory which just stands out, a negative memory?" And I went, yeah. He goes, "Okay, hold here, keep thinking about that memory, And he just did what we call the simple or the introductory pattern on me. He goes, "Now, when you think about that memory now, what's it like?" And I was like, And it was in that moment I realized that my way of working with people was going to change drastically.
Wow.
So I don't even think it was called IEMT. It was called like eye stuff, literally something like eye stuff. And I kept in contact with Andy, and I signed up. He had do you remember like mailing lists and forums and things like this? Yeah. I'm sure it was all to do with that. And he eventually formalized an actual 2-day training.
Okay.
So I went along, and I was very, very confused with everything that was kind of going on. It was very sort of high level in some parts and stuff. So I kind of went through it and broke it all down so I could relearn it in a sense.
Yes.
And put it into like structured formulas, and I like things to be quite modular and methodical and straightforward. And I'm just not. I don't have Andy's brain so I need I need to sort of plug and play. Does it hurt? Ow, And so I kind of restructured it all, and I started using it straight away because I'd moved to London by this time, or very soon, something like that. Anyway, I can't quite remember. But I was working with a coaching company, and it was a lot of sort of dating stuff. I was working with both men and women, and a lot of that was also about sort of self-esteem issues and rejection, and also people who have broken up and come out of marriages and separate. So I had all this kind of stuff to kind of work on, and I used to do 6-hour sessions with people because it was like a transformational week. I used to work with them, so usually 4 hours with women and 6 hours with guys, and I was doing several of these people a week. So in 6 hours, you can do an awful lot of experimentation.
Absolutely.
And so I did hundreds of hours of implementing stuff with IEMT. I then got asked if I wanted to go do the training course to train practitioners, and so I went to Southampton for a week, and I learned to be a trainer of IEMT. You had to be good at IEMT to be an actual trainer. Right. And now it's 2013. And since then, I have spoken about IEMT. I do lots of things like this. I speak out to lots and lots of people. But I used to do lots of talks with a company called Funzing. So I used to go speak in Brighton and Bristol and Sheffield and Cardiff. And obviously, post-pandemic, that's not quite as it was. But I do. I still do a lot of interviews and sort of spread the word. And I now run usually a monthly. I used to do it in person from. I have a clinic in London Bridge. I say I have a clinic. I use a clinic. I don't own it. I use it when I need. But it's a great centre. But the problem is getting people to London now is increasingly hard and increasingly expensive. So I had people on the course. So it's a £400 course. So it's not it's not a cheap course, but it's not that for a weekend course. I think it's very well priced. But if you have somebody attending saying they're coming from Leeds. Yeah, you've got your travel, you've got your hotel, you've got your food. You're going to double that, at least double that for 2 nights in the London hotel and stuff. Yeah, and so during the pandemic, because we weren't allowed to train online, but obviously about a few weeks in, Andy realised that this is not going to be a short thing. Of course, and so he said, okay, we can do it online. And in fact, I've been doing bits of his this week, but he's now doing them online as well. And so I did a training last weekend. And again, I was just saying, I think we had 3 people from Canada. Somebody was in Georgia, somewhere near Eastern Europe. Georgia. I think in Scotland, Manchester, and so all these are the kinds of places. And so now we've taken it online because also what I've got to, represent in training is that most people are going to work with people online. So before I was training in person to work with people in person. Now I'm training people online to work with people online. So it kind of breaks down all these barriers and borders. And it just means that my trainings now are just very, very multinational, literally from all over the world. I get a lot of people from America, Australia, New Zealand, Japan I've had. And so it's great to have all that because IEMT is not that well known. No. And so getting it out it's been really fantastic, and so it has been. It's been great actually, sort of teaching these people from all different kind of backgrounds. So when I used to teach, when I used to do it before, I first of all started doing it in a pub because I used to run events called Interesting Talks, and the vast majority of the people who attended were the people who used to come to my interesting. But these basically like psychology talks, self-development psychology, and the vast majority of people who came were just looking for something to do for the weekend, really. Of course. They weren't looking to become a therapist or to add to their therapy skills. And the actual location, I think, put off a lot of people. So I ran it more as a weekend of, work on yourself rather than anything. And as I've sort of gone further and further on, I've really changed the course. And now my core market are those people who are already doing therapy. So I get a lot of hypnotherapists, NLPers, obviously I get counselors as well. increasingly more mental health nurses, NHS mental health workers and nurses, and blue light people. So police, ex-police, ambulance, fire brigades, ice cream van. Basically, if you've got a flashing light, because a lot of the people who go through it have had counselling through their work, and with a lot of counselling, so say that you're a policeman and you've attended some horrific scene, they will want you to open up and talk about that.
Of course.
And a lot of people don't want to, because basically it's re-traumatization. I'm not saying counseling's not a good thing. It is. Counselling is a great, great thing, but a lot of people don't want to keep talking about the thing that happened. IEMT is pretty much content free. So you don't have to talk about the things that the person's experienced or happened to actually get the benefits from it. So yes, we're getting more and more people from the blue light services who want to now work predominantly with same people. So we're trying to sort of raise the profile of it to a more professional standard, to move it away from. I think I think it's going to be called like a psychosomatic therapy rather than it's classed as a psychotherapy at the moment.
Yeah,
got insurable psychotherapy, but I think they're going to, again, this is all. I'm not sure what's going to happen in the future with everything, but it's. I do have people who have no training at all, and that's fine. So if people want to start their career in therapy, they can come do it, or if they just want to go through the weekend themselves and they have no intention of becoming a therapist, that's fine. But I really want to get the name out there. So my job is when you pay to come on a course, 50% of that payment is for the course, 50% is for the aftercare and the coaching and the help. And as you know, you've been through it, so I'm always in the Facebook groups. I do monthly. We're just talking on twice monthly coaching calls where you can ask me anything. And I provide a lot of support because I want you to become a practitioner, and I want you to work with hundreds and hundreds of people.
Of course.
So a lot of my time is now focused on I do the training, then I support the practitioners, and that's what I do.
I was going to ask you, Matt. A lot of people watching won't know what it is. Okay, so can you sort of explain the process when a client comes to see you? What happens?
Okay, so when a client comes to see me, the first thing I do is I ask them if they have a negative memory which just stands out. Okay, do you have a negative memory which just stands out? Now, most of the time when you go to see a therapist, you've got your story that you're going to tell, and it's just of no interest to me because I'm not there to listen to your story. I'm there to listen to the structure rather than the story. So the structure is the submodalities and the chronicity, basically why you haven't changed. And so a lot of people who come to see me have been to other therapists and not got the results they've wanted.
Indeed.
So I don't offer any kind of outcome. So I don't offer any kind of goal, which people find a bit strange. But I always say the people who are in the middle of the problem, the worst people to make the goal anyway. So I don't let them make a goal. So I ask them what they want, and I'm like, well, why? But they come along. I go, do you have a memory which stands out? Great, perfect. Hold it, and I move their eyes to show them that change is happening. Because IEMT is change work. It's not counselling. It's like, how are you? Tell me about why you're here today. I don't know why you do it in that voice, but why are you here? And so my IEMT is like, right, what's the problem? And let's work on the problem. Let's explore the issue. So the first thing we do is we give them a demonstration. It's a dress rehearsal. So I want to see how they're moving their eyes properly and that they can follow instructions. I'm then looking for basically why are they there? Is it anxiety? Is it PTSD related stuff? Is it unwanted emotions they have? Do they have lots of negative memories going on in their head? So I like to explore. Now, IEMT is an exploration of the problem. And what we do, the reason why it's called integrative eye movement therapy is because we're looking to integrate past negative experiences and assimilate them into, their general experience. So they're no longer outliers. So think of it like this. When you're in, I'm talking nonsense. My metaphors are really off today. Basically, you have these imprints. What you've learned at a young age are always there. They're always kind of working. And so we trigger these imprints by based by what's going on in the world, because we have these formative years, and they're usually between around the ages of 6 and 14, 15, kind of those kind of ages. And what's going on there is we are laying down kinesthetic, so a feeling response to a stimulus or to a situational scenario. So this could be something like when you get up to speak, at school, to read out of school, and if people laugh, and it doesn't need to be traumatic, it can be a look, it can be a little snigger, it can be something small. It can also be you witnessing it happening to somebody else. So how that might show up in your present day is in presentations you give to people, to meeting new people. And we can form, because basically you'll go out and experience similar things, which will then give you like confirmation bias on these different things. It's like imagine if you cut your little finger, right? You have no idea how many times your little finger makes contact with things until you cut it. The same, you cut your finger, you get a splinter, you're suddenly, ow, 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 all this hurts. So what we end up doing is we end up sort of trying to protect it. Plasters on it will wrap it up. Now that finger can be completely healed, but we never know because we've protected it with so much behavior and avoidance. So what IEMT does, it goes into the actual imprints of the problem. And it allows the person to view the experience of what happened 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago from who they are today. And it takes it from this is a problem to like, it's not a problem. We don't try and make them positive and go, well, what was the intention of this? Or we don't do anything sort of like that. We just make it so things aren't a problem. And so it's nothing to do with positivity. It's to work on the negative imprints. And so you can release these imprints and people start to connect loads of stuff up in their life. That's why I'm like that. And just knowing why you are the way you are is incredibly therapeutic and cathartic as well.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. Like, you trained me, I use it, and it is really, really effective. And that it's almost, the imprints just become like normal memories. I mean, they'll never forget it, but when they access it, that old emotion's not there anymore.
That's exactly correct. So the thing is, the reason why we remember we remember negative memories much stronger than positive ones, because negative memories have much more value to us in our survival and well-being. So we remember these memories and they're stored differently to normal memories. We don't really remember much. If I said to you, what did you do last Tuesday afternoon? Unless you look it up, you're probably not going to know.
No.
But if last Tuesday afternoon you got hit by a car, you're probably going to remember that. So, and so we don't remember these things, especially as we're getting older and older. We become more and more mature. We're just living our patterns, as it were. But what lots of people don't realize is that their patterns, they're living in almost like an invisible cage because they've learned these barriers. And when we trigger these belief systems, we get certain outcomes, usually anxiety, self-negative talk, and avoidance. So my neighbours are being very shouty. Hopefully it won't be picked up. And so, that's good. Maybe it's just in my head. And so when somebody says there's nothing wrong with them, that's fine. But what they're doing is they are limiting their lives. So, for example, let's say that you want to go for a promotion at work. You know you can do the work, and you know you want the extra money because then that'll allow you to buy a different house and buy a different car, or whatever it is. So you think, okay, I want to go for this promotion, and logically you can do the work. You then hit this wall of no. It makes this cognitive dissonance. You have all this no, because you'll start talking to yourself. You'll basically start justifying why not. Okay, and we justify the why not because it makes us feel better about the situation. I don't want the extra responsibility. I don't want to work longer. I don't want to. You do want to go for the thing, but you've hit this emotion, you've hit this thing, which has now blocked you. So with IEMT, we're looking at what the actual emotional blockages are. And we're not trying to be Tony Robbins and smash them. We're trying to understand what they are so they can sort of literally dissolve. So it's so we'll keep on this job interview thread. So why don't you? What's it like when you think about it? it makes me feel stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it makes you feel stupid. That is an experience of a feeling. I am stupid is a belief system to do with identity, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So if
We
it's
will.
I feel stupid, out of 10, how stupid do you feel? 9. And how familiar is that way of feeling? Very. And when's the first time you can remember feeling this way? When my teacher called me out in front of class for doing something wrong. That's the imprint. So we'll work on that imprint. And we again the other imprints that kind of come up as well, because seldom do we have one current problem that has
Indeed.
one imprint. So we
Yeah.
work on up to 4 imprints per emotional issue. And once you work on 4, it creates an actual flow of memory and a flow of different things as well. And it begins to connect all this kind of stuff up. Basically, what I want as a result is when people think about the interview now,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have this overwhelm. They actually think about what they can do. So instead of being reactive, they become resourceful and creative. So it's
Fantastic.
actually helping people become much more productive by actually putting in less effort, which sounds weird, but you actually put in less effort. If you think about, I like the whole train analogy. If you think about a standard train, to get it going takes an awful lot of force, and you've got a lot of contact points with the wheels and the track. Okay, so you've got a locomotive pulling it forward. You then have all this contact, which is essentially dragging it all down. And then you've got the bullet train in Japan. A very small amount of effort, and it goes for miles. Okay, and the reason why it does that is because I think it's about half a centimeter, and it's levitated with magnets. So you're actually removing the friction, so it can actually move on a magnet. So I think that when you do IEMT, it helps to remove all this friction, all this baggage, and actually, so therefore you can actually glide through stuff rather than being really. And I think if you've got to motivate yourself to do something, you're starting off from a very poor position. And if you're okay, let's say you're going to give a presentation at work,
Mm-hmm.
and motivate yourself up, there's going to be a lot of adrenaline.
Yeah.
The chances of you messing up now is higher. Okay, because you're going to be anxious. You're going to be, "Rah, rah, rah." And also you don't want to be that person that's really, beating their chest and stuff. And the thing is, you're more likely to mess up. And if you mess up when you're that in an emotional state, that's going to create another very strong negative imprint. The higher you go, the lower you fall in that sense. However, if you do some IEMT to work out why you feel negative about doing it, and you work on that so you can actually focus on the actual thing that you're doing instead, you're much more likely to give a good presentation. So now you now have a new imprint for giving presentations. So when you give the next presentation, you've now got this positive or neutral imprint that's now assimilated into the mix. You've taken the emotional sting out. So basically, you still have to do the thing, and you might not really enjoy it, but you can do it. And then you do it again, and you do it again.
And with practice. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people think that therapy is an alternative for doing work. If you just make me really motivated, I'll work harder. Well, no, you'll just be annoying, and you'll burn out, and then you'll have to drink loads of Red Bull coffee and probably do drugs to keep up that kind of level of stimulation. I always say, look, if you need to be motivated to do something, there's a problem. There's a problem. No one needs motivation to go to the pub or something,
No.
right? It's something you enjoy, but doing something you don't like requires motivation. So I have done a lot of stuff with people with they call it productivity. I just call it sort of clearing out stuff so you can focus on things. For me, somebody being productive is just, not, because that's just, again, that's a lot of energy, and it's not going to last. It's like if you go to one of these big weekends of, pumping yourself up, you'll feel great when you're there, and everyone is like hugging and walking on broken glass and breaking arrows in their neck and high-fiving, and it sounds awful. For the next day, you'll be a complete, I won't swear, person on Facebook saying about all your goals. No one cares about your goals. Let me make this up. No one cares. And then you'll feel really good, but then by about Wednesday, you'll feel like crap. And the only way to feel good again is to go back next year. And they'll make you go back next year, and it'll be more expensive, and you'll go for dining. So with IEMT works brilliant in combination with other therapies and coaching or training of some kind. So for example, if you're a driving instructor, you teach people how to drive. I do not teach people how to drive, yet people contact me saying, I need to become a good driver. my driving instructor. Okay, but when I was young, I was in a bad car accident. Now we're talking. I can help you with these.
Absolutely.
And once you remove the anxiety and the fear, people can then learn the skill, and they can learn it at a much better rate than if they're trying to push through all this belief system.
Absolutely makes sense, Matt. Makes sense. I think we've got a question off James there.
Okay.
Can you see it?
No. I can see. After all is said and done, there is more said than done. Okay. If there's a question, I'd love to know what the question is.
Maybe not a question, Matt. Maybe not a question.
After all is said and done, there's more said than done. James, if you want to
elaborate,
James.
If
you can elaborate. But a lot of motivational speaking really is sort of talking about how to find your mode and doing all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is trying to compensate for things.
Yeah.
You know? So with IEMT, we're looking for what these negative things are. It was from your comments earlier. I've said a lot of things in the last half an hour. Again, if you want to elaborate more, if it's just a comment, fair enough. If there's a question, you'll have to sort of be specific. And so IEMT looks at two main areas of your life: your emotional life and your behavioral life, your identity. So what you're feeling and what you're being are two different things. So, for example, I feel afraid is very different to I am afraid. And so when we're working with clients in IEMT, we're looking for these linguistic patterns that people have, and also what we call the patterns of chronicity. Why is this person stuck in this problem? Okay. Now, I won't go through all of them, but one of my favorite ones is one sec. I've forgotten what it's called. Essentially, I've just had a complete break. Yeah,
that's fine.
No. This is really weird. I've had a long, very stressful day. Basically, it's learned helplessness in a sense. Yeah. It's actually learned helplessness. I don't know why I can't remember this. Why can't I? I will look it up because that is absolutely ridiculous.
It's one of the 5 patterns, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe man.
No, it's not maybe.
Effect or cause.
It's effect and cause. That's it.
Yeah, that's the one.
I was overthinking it. Honestly, I've had.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you briefly about my day, and then I'll get back to effect and cause. So I'm with GoDaddy. I've got professional emails. I've got a couple of them with GoDaddy. Okay. They've recently changed everything, and they're now using Office 365. So I've had to go to 365, which is fine. Yeah. Except my email stopped coming through my phone and on my laptop.
Oh, no.
And so I updated everything today, and I lost about 400 emails.
Wow.
Which I've been trying to fix all day. It's been ridiculous.
These things take a lot of time, and it does get you frustrated. Definitely.
It does. And the thing is, this is one of the things as well. This is to do with the 3-step reaction process, right? My computer doesn't care. I can get as angry as I want at the computer.
Indeed.
Okay. I'm not angry at the computer. I'm angry at something from 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
But I'm taking it out on the computer. And this is, again, how we use IEMT, the patterns with people. So when people have an anger problem, they're not angry at you.
Mm-hmm.
They're angry at something else from before.
Yes.
And they don't know how to behave, basically. So they're trying to use their behavior to
compensating using this type of reaction.
Well, they're trying to control your behavior through their responses.
Yeah.
And so with the effect and cause, basically, are you at effect or are you at cause in life? If you're at effect, you are doing your life. If you're effect, life is happening to you. If you're at cause, you're doing life, and if you're at effect, you're letting life happen to you.
Yes.
So the kind of people that we often get are the people who want to tell you how bad their life is, but you don't understand. When I was young, this happened, and this happened, and then this happened, and this happened. Yeah. What do you want? A medal? I always say, look, no matter how bad your life is, I can tell you 10 other cases that will make you happy to be you.
Absolutely.
And so what we have to do is we have to move people out of this why me? And there's some sort of stoicism in this, like, well, why not you? Okay, life's not fair. Bad things happen to good people.
Absolutely.
And bad people get away with things, so what we actually have to do is to work out why they're letting these things happen to them. Sometimes it's to do with boundaries with people, and sometimes it's because they have, if you feel like you're a loser, the biggest things that people have is they're not good enough, they're not lovable, they're usually everyone kind of has. So if you have these as kind of core beliefs, your behavior is going to resonate, and take on these beliefs and actions. So you're not going to take care of yourself. You're not going to take physical care of yourself. Or one of the other things which people do is you go the absolute opposite way. And when you see these women who have absolutely destroyed their face with injections,
Mm-hmm.
and men as well now, or men who've gone to the gym and not left for a year and are like absolutely massive, it's overcompensation of things that are going on inside.
Indeed.
Yeah. So the women will often find they'll never feel attractive. They were always trying to get back to 50. And I've never seen a woman with loads of plastic surgery and go, oh, she looks really young. Yeah, I've never thought that. I always think she's ruined her face. And I know so many people, including personal friends, people are starting in like their 20s, and it's just ridiculous. And then men who try to build up their body to compensate for their weak, innerness, as it were, in a child, I suppose. So IMT helps again to look to find the belief systems that people have, the chronicity of why they've remained the way they are, and how we can help to resolve these so you can actually move on and do things differently. But that requires working on your internal kinesthetic responses and your internal belief systems, which is your behavior and your identity. I won't take you through the whole structure because it's quite a long thing to explain.
Yeah, of course.
But basically, it's how are you behaving in the world? And this is one of the things I really despise from the self-development industry. And that is, you've got to be authentic. You've got to be who you want, wherever you want to, and not care what anyone says. And I was like, well, that's just a megalomania causing absolute crazies. You can't have just people doing what they want all the time. It's just ridiculous. And I'm a different person now, talking to you, knowing we're talking to people, talking to James, to who I'm going to be in half an hour's time when I'm just out listening to podcasts and out in the world, and how I'm going to be different on Saturday, Sunday. Well, I'm going back to see family. I'll be very different back there. And I'll be very different when I'm working.
Yeah.
Now, I'm flexible, and I make sure I'm flexible. And I'm not trying to be congruent wherever I am. And some people are, and that causes a lot of problems. Just because you're confident at work doesn't mean you're going to have a good home life in that sense.
Absolutely.
So you've got to explore the patterns that people are. So when somebody says to me, I want more confidence, this is a starting point. Why? Why do you want more confidence? What's the problem?
Indeed.
And so in IEMT, we don't usually ask what people want. We ask what the problem is. What's the problem? Well, I want to meet more people. Okay, so what's the problem? I'm scared. I'm unlovable. I hate myself. Brilliant. Write all these down. Great.
Something to work with. Hey.
Now what to work with? You can obviously do a whole NLP thing, fill them full of happy feelings, send them out into the world. But likely, it's like if I'm teaching somebody to drive, which I'm not, I could actually remove all their anxiety. Well, not remove, but help them work with their anxiety and things they've seen in the past. Then they can go learn the skills.
Yeah.
Or I can boost them full up with energy, let them drive, but they're going to go crash it and die. Yeah. So, and this is what a lot of people in the self-development and
makes a lot of sense,
cause a lot more damage than they sort of sort out. So IEMT is now I've been around the self-development industry for a long time. And I think that if I never blame the person wanting to work on themselves at all, and I don't like the people who sell people on expensive courses, promise the world, deliver nothing, or deliver things which are damaging. And so IEMT is almost like IEMT is not a hypey therapy. It's not a positive therapy. It's a very effective set of tools and techniques to help people rectify why they aren't progressing in life and holding on to all these negative memories, emotions, and ways of being. So you can actually have better clarity of thought and emotional control in your behavior to change who you are in the present.
It's almost like a sense of balance, like you were saying, when people are all pumped up, they're extreme end of that sort of balance. And I think IEMT endeavors to get to that balanced state where, this is happening. I've resolved from the past associated with this, and now I can just do it, you know, in a balanced way, in a sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and the thing is, when you can then go do the thing, you get better at it. You
Yes.
can go do it again.
Yeah, and that's the beauty in it of practice. So we started to go into identity there, didn't we? We did. Did we go into it fully?
Yeah, we can go into it. So basically, when we talk about identity, we have different. Now, identity is obviously quite a big hot topic at the moment, and I don't make any kind of comment and stuff around this because I don't know what's going on, and I'm not the kind of person that should be talking about all this pronoun.
I think it goes over my head a little bit because I'm old school, to be honest, Matt. It's go on, sorry.
Yeah, I just sort of like leave well alone because it's a dangerous, it's a loaded gun, that, isn't it? So, however, we have different things that we take on throughout our lives. So, for example, my identity now is different to how it's going to be in half an hour, whenever we finish this, and to like tomorrow and stuff like that. And there are certain things within my identity that will always remain the same. So, you know, my politics, my sexuality, the fact that I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a nephew, I'm an uncle. So these kind of parts of my identity will stay the same. The fact that I'm a therapist, I'm a trainer, these things kind of stay the same. Other things can be more flexible, depending on the scenario that you are in. Okay, and these things can really change, and it changes how you respond, definitely, in the world. So let's say that if I'm underperforming in something, let's say if I'm doing a training and if I'm just not very good and it's not a very good training, I'm not kind of performing. And so what will tend to be is that I will be sort of behaving from past imprints, and these imprints are not, when we have an emotion is like digital, we rate out of 10. It's either there or it's not. You know, we can find the imprint, we work the imprint, and then we test it as we go along. With identity, it's more conceptual. So we find out where this identity physically is within the body, how old the identity feels, and the experience of what's happening around this identity, which sounds weird. And until you actually do it and see it being done, it won't really make any sense. And so what we usually find is that we have, although you might be a 45-year-old man in a business meeting, you might be operating and experiencing it as like a 12-year-old being scolded at class.
Of course.
Okay. So what we do is we bring this identity up to date to the here and now. And you don't need to go into all the belief systems or talk about it or do any inner child work. It's basically, when do you first remember being this way? And it tends to be a period of time. So when people come to me because they have basically feel unlovable, these kind of things, a lot of this is around when a parent leaves. They will feel so they will feel rejected, and they feel like they're not good enough, or they will believe they're not good enough. So usually within every problem that somebody has, it's folding my legs, there's a mixture of feelings and identities at play. Now, we can also, society is good at giving us labels and things. So a lot of labels I've worked with is like widower, divorcee, lazy, all these different kinds of, obviously there's like a lot of racial things as well. But generally it's kind of labels, and also black sheep of the family, the baby of the family, all of these we tend to get. And nicknames, so nicknames, labels, and they all have an effect on us, you know. And also we have beliefs. We just have beliefs about ourselves, like I'm not good enough, or I am ugly, or whatever it might be. And they're all running in the background all the time.
Absolutely.
And so we're not. So I know a lot of like I know sometimes I'm ragging on NLP a lot. NLP I think is generally good, but I think there's a lot of nonsense in it as well. So if when somebody says to me, I am not worthy of being loved, I'll agree with them. And that might sound really mean, but it's not. It's so I can help them. The natural instinct is to go, no, come on, you're not. Look, you've got loads going and stuff. But the thing is, you're just papering over cracks there. They've told you the problem. What I want to do is discover why they learned how to be this way, to help process all this. And then you can actually build real confidence and not just sort of paper over these cracks. So we're using a lot of the tools and techniques to find out these beliefs and these feelings. and to really heal from the past, to really sort of do a lot of sort of healing from the past. And then the identity stuff as well, we also look at the representations of other people. So let's say that somebody's come out of a marriage, they had an abusive partner, maybe not physically, just emotionally, vocally, but as a result now they have low self-esteem, they don't want to meet anybody else because they don't think anyone will want them. And so when they think about their ex-partner, it might be when they think about them, they're there in front of them, they're chastising them. We can work on those internal representations to the point where, it just doesn't matter. They're not in my life. It's just, it removes the emotion and everything from it. And they can actually see things from a different perspective. I was like, well, they're just a weak person themselves. So you'll often get a lot of those kind of perceptual shifts with IEMT. So it's not just a shift of emotion, it's a shift in perception.
That's one of the things that really attracted me to it, to be honest. The whole package, the whole thing, amazing, absolutely amazing. I've lost my train of thought now, Matt.
Identity.
Identity. Oh, come on.
Working with labels, belief systems.
Yeah, I've lost it.
Going through sort of divorce, working with those kind of imprints of other people. Go on, Dave, we'll get there. What was it? James, what was it?
This is a great time, Matt, to ask anyone watching if they've got any questions. So we've got quite a few people watching at the moment. I might remember what I wanted to ask Matt. If anyone's got any questions, fire away, because I'm sure Matt's answering them.
Do we have more people? Just out of interest, are they more on Facebook or YouTube? Or
I've got no idea, to be honest, Matt, because I just get
overall stats. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, please do.
Oh, we got one. Let's have a look. James again. Good to see you on, James. You can't change the past, but you can change the concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you and a lot of people are like, everything happens for a reason. No, it doesn't. It just doesn't. Try telling that to somebody who's lost a child. What's the positive intention? It doesn't. So the thing is, a lot of the reason why people have problems with the past is because your brain has not fully assimilated the experience and put it into your past. Because when it happened under a lot of stress, where the amygdala took on excessive information and the hippocampus was not able to store it properly. That's what I believe anyway. It hasn't got a timestamp on it. So therefore your brain thinks it's going to happen again. This is why when I work with people who've come back from war-torn, not war-torn countries, soldiers.
Yeah.
When they close their eyes, they're back in Afghanistan in theatre of war. When they hear a car door slam, and it's because their brain is looking for this, although they're now thousands of miles away. They're out of danger.
Yeah.
What IEMT helps to do is literally close that off and stop it. It's like I've got a light up here, right? You can't really tell that's on. Oh, because it's not plugged in. That's why. So, if the light's on, you can see. If I turn it off, the light's still there. It's just not emitting anything anymore. And so IEMT goes to find these emotional imprints and basically stops the emotional charge going to it, and therefore stops it interfering in your present day. So again, IEMT is about creating proportionate responses to stimulus and having better clarity and mental and emotional control over your present day. Because once you can do that, you get to change your actions in the present, and therefore you create a better future.
Yeah, because most people, they're just automatic, aren't they, Matt? They don't realize they don't recognize the triggers. They're straight in there, they're reacting. And it's only later on when their sort of logical brain kicks in, they're like, oh my God, what have I just done?
And it's completely normal and natural. And the more times you do it, the more times you'll do it.
Can you sort of, I know you were talking about date stamping a moment ago, like how the movement of the eyes actually have an impact on the imprints. Is there obviously as a model, what's your take on that?
As a model, I'm not a model, but thanks. Okay, so basically, there's different schools of thought. The answer is we don't know. And so we don't give an explanation because until we do actually work with people in scanners during the eye movements, we can't say precisely. However, I've had different theories. So EMDR, which is similar to IEMT in some ways, works off a thing called bilateral stimulation. And that is actually you have two hemispheres of the brain. And when you stimulate both hemispheres over a central thought, it begins to process it with the different regions of the brain. Okay. With IEMT, or not even with IEMT, I think it's more to do with the limbic system.
Right.
And to do with information consolidation. So now, again, a neuroscientist, doctor neuroscientist, came onto my course. I did an actual demonstration on her, and then she had to have a think about it, and then she gave a bit of an explanation to what she thinks is possibly going on. So instead of thinking about side to side, it's more to think about internal and external, or not external, but the cerebral cortex rather than the R complex. So we have the amygdala and the hippocampus, and they work in tandem. There's more things, obviously,
of course,
limbic system, but the amygdala represents. Imagine it's like your aperture of a camera. So a normal frame rate is just taking information in. This information is then being passed to the hippocampus. The hippocampus is then taking, consolidating it all, and putting it where it needs to go. That's kind of what happens. If there's something that comes to the attention of the hippocampus, of the amygdala, sorry, this is when it starts to work with long-term memory and start to create, a response to it. Because most of the time, you're just walking down the road. It's like, you can drive to work and not know how,
Absolutely.
But, yeah. So, however, if you're under a lot of stress because you're in a stressful, traumatic situation, it's like opening the aperture of a camera. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said it goes up by nearly 400%. So you take on 4 times the amount of information than you would normally. So this is a huge amount of information, and the more stress your brain is under, the better the amygdala works. It's like a turbo in a car.
Yeah.
But the worse the hippocampus works.
Absolutely.
So what happens, it overloads the hippocampus essentially, and so it can't deal with all the information, and so it's not assimilated again. It's not filed in a normal way. It's almost like cast to the side. Now, when the hippocampus is working normally, when I say a date stamp, if you had a nice birthday last month, you'll think about it and go, "Yeah, yeah, that was a nice time." You won't be like, "Oh, I'm still there." There's a cake. Because you know it's in the past. It was last week. It was last year. When it's a traumatic memory that's not being dealt with properly, you close your eyes. It's like you're still there. That's the thing with memories. It's like it's like a minimized window on a computer. Okay, you can minimize it, but it's not being closed. It's not being saved properly.
Right.
So EMT, in my opinion, helps to look at these and properly close them, properly close them down. James just said, how can you know the light is still there if you can't see it? Okay, so the explanation that I give, the emotions that we're experiencing present day have a source, have imprints. It's like, you can use the light metaphor, or I like to use speakers and music. So we have music that's being played, which is the emotion. You follow, or the therapist practitioner helps you to follow back to the source of this music, which is the speaker. You then turn the speaker off. So the speaker is still there, but it's no longer producing emotion. Now, what can often happen with a client, the reason why they're so confused in life, is because that speaker is in another room and they don't know how to follow it back, or to even follow it back. So it's the IEMT practitioner's job to get them into this feeling, emotion, state, whatever you want to call it, to go back to find the relevant imprints. And so you can basically, you're facilitating this, you're helping with the eye movements. So the eye movements, I believe, deconsolidates, so brings the information out to therefore be reanalyzed and consolidated once again.
From an adult point of view as well, yeah.
So if something bad happened to a 7-year-old, if you're 45, it's not going to be a problem. You know this, and that's what causes the frustration. So it goes back and it allows you to experience this memory, and then we let go of it quite quickly. And so basically it just loses its power. It closes it off. It's like, oh, well, this is obviously, done. so you can still remember what happens, but it vastly changes the representation of it, which is the submodalities of what you see, and the experience of it, so what you feel, and also the understanding of it, the representation of it, the actual meaning behind it, the concept behind it as well.
I'm guessing it's in a sense a permanent thing as well, because every time you go back to a memory, it changes, doesn't it? Even if you're not, doing any work on it, just thinking about it, it looks constantly. So,
well, memories are not like it's not like a thing. It's not like a charge. It's a network. It's an actual neural network. So every time you access a memory, you're not accessing the memory. You're accessing a memory of the memory. It kind of goes. So the emotion that you're in when you think about something will have a lot of impact on the memory itself. So just by holding a memory and doing anything will have some form of impact. If you hold a negative memory and start jogging, it's going to change the memory in some way. We've just found the eyes tend to be very effective. And again, we don't know why, but I believe it's to do with basically the eyes communicate with, because your eyes are basically just bits of your brain that stick out. You don't see your eyes. And IEMT's got nothing to do with sight. So it's nothing to do with sight, okay? It's to do with how the brain is accessing the negative memory or the imprint, because we can see, because they will look in that direction. And when we move the eyes, it'll be blippy, it'll be moving, it'll have little jumps, and that is telling us that things are changing internally, the representation. And so we do it until it runs smooth. Once it runs smooth, no more change work is actually taking place, so that's why we stop. So with EMDR, you can have 45 minutes if your eye's going left and right, or on a light bar or something. And also EMDR is a 7-8 phase system. It can have several sessions before you have your eyes moved.
Wow.
And I actually have a lot of EMDR therapists come and do the training because they want the education, because although they like EMDR and eye movement, and again, EMDR's got some great stuff in it, but it can be quite lengthy, and you can't become a real EMDR therapist like the EMDR IA, which is the International Association, unless you have a medical background.
Right.
So loads of these courses that you can do for EMDR, you either can't do because you're not a medical person, or if they're not EMDR IA certified, then I don't think you can call yourself an EMDR practitioner, nor can you get the insurance for it, nor can you do like the insurance work or NHS work or anything sort of like that, because you're not classed as an EMDR practitioner. IEMT is a 2-day course, and you become a practitioner by doing your case studies and doing it within a couple of weeks, kind of thing. Now, IEMT is great to work on its own, but it's even better when it's mixed with. So, a lot of counsellors that I get deal with really horrible stuff, and they will use IEMT on the really horrible stuff, because then they can talk about it. They can actually talk about it properly without becoming overwhelmed and crying. So people use it in lots of different ways, CBT therapists or all these kind of people, because IEMT, when I say what's the feeling, guilt, and 9 out of 10, what's the imprint, the schoolroom, this is the level of information that we're getting. It's not, we don't go into the story.
Absolutely, which makes it incredibly effective and rapid.
Yeah, especially for guys who don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely.
So I've worked with loads of guys who have had some form of abuse at the hands of somebody else, and they don't want to talk about it, and they're in pain. They're in an awful lot of actual pain because of they've got all this crap going on in their head, and now they're expressing this out and hurting other people, and so there's an awful lot.
Sorry, Matt.
No,
how would you help someone who had like an anxiety, but they couldn't put their finger on it, the particular triggers, if you like?
So anxiety is an overstimulation of the nervous system. It's not a feeling in itself. So generally, when people have anxiety, first of all, I look at their lifestyle, as that's usually a huge, big telltale. So if you're somebody who sleeps in late, drinks a lot, does drugs, has loads of carbs and sugar, drinks Red Bull, does cocaine, stays up late at night, and then comes to me and says, I have anxiety, be like, good. That's your body's way of saying, don't do this. Now, the thing is with anxiety is that you can take a pill. There's a whole variety of these pills.
Yeah,
You can take this pill and it'll stop the anxiety.
Mm.
It doesn't stop the reason why that person is having anxiety. So
Yeah.
generally, when somebody has anxiety, we look at how they're structuring their life and their feelings, and the feelings they have retrospectively and prospectively. So feelings about the past and feelings about the future. So generally, feelings that we have in the past are guilt, shame, regret, and remorse. And feelings about the future tend to be like anger, panic, and frustration. And once we know the feelings that they're having from the past and the feelings they're having about the future, we work on those feelings with the integrative patterns to find the imprints. And so you've got anxiety in the middle that are propped up by two sides, the past and the future.
Yeah.
Work on those, and the anxiety itself tends to resolve itself.
Fascinating. Can you use it? Like, a lot of people go to hypnotherapists to stop smoking or slimming and stuff like that. Is that something?
See, I don't necessarily like working with smokers. I don't work with, I think I remember the last smoker I worked with. Now, the reason is that people like smoking.
Yeah.
Right? They like doing it. So they know it's wrong. So, but what you can do is you can explore why they smoke. So I can't make you stop smoking unless I'm going to glue your hands together or something.
Yes.
But we can explore why you smoke. And whenever someone does some kind of pattern behavior, it's usually to escape some sort of emotional state and to gain something. So when people say, oh, I use smoking to relax, well, that's scientifically not true because it makes you more anxious. It's a stimulant. So I have worked with smokers and drinkers. It's quite, if somebody's got like an alcohol dependency or something, unless you're trained in this, you really shouldn't be going near it, in my opinion. Especially if it's a drug dependency, like it's like a heroin or something. You don't want to be touching that. You want to send them to the priory or something, or to the GP. But if it's somebody who wants to get better control over their drinking, then that's something different. And so it might be that they feel lonely, and so then they start drinking. Okay, this feeling of lonely you have, how strong is that feeling and how familiar? And so you start to break down the structure where alcohol is the escape mechanism.
Right.
So I never say it can work or will or won't work on something. All I say is we can explore the actual situation. I've seen here James saying, isn't anxiety like depression, learned behavior? Not really. Depression, okay, when it comes to depression, right, people will claim they have depression. They haven't had any sort of clinical diagnosis. They're just sad because they generally don't like their life. If you took that same person who might be in a rubbish job where nobody respects them, they might live on their own or in a big house share where everyone is noisy and, they might have to get on the bus to work and it's filled with, Muppets and then they do a crap job and then they come home and have a takeaway and watch Love Island, I don't know, Game of Thrones, and they do that 2 weeks a year. If you took that person and put them into a nice house with good friends and stuff like that, I'm guessing that depression is going to lift. And that's got nothing to do with, because people say, oh, I've got imbalance of brain chemicals, and I think it is. I think a lot of it is about lifestyle, and I think people often use this term depression almost as an excuse. I can't do that because I have anxiety or I am depressed. And the thing is, if you start down that road, you can go to a doctor, to a GP. If you can get an appointment, what are they going to do? They have, I think it's 7 minutes. All they can do, generally, a GP prescribes or refers. That's essentially their job. So what are they going to do? All right, they might refer you to counselling. When will that happen? You might get, I think it's 6 sessions of CBT or 12 sessions of CBT. Again, this might all be completely different. People know different. Please put it back. This is just what I've dealt with working with people. But you might not get that therapy for a year. Or they might refer you to start with an SSRI, which is a serotonin reuptake. So it generally sort of should make you happier. That might not take a while to kick in. And when it does kick in, they are successful. But now you're taking a medication as a long-term strategy because you don't like your experience of life.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're using this medication to change your life,
Mm-hmm.
you're basically now becoming dependent on something. And
Yeah.
that only tends to go one way. What
Yeah.
might start off as half a tablet a day might go to a full, because
Yeah.
your body acclimatizes to it.
Yeah.
And also, when you are sort of taking medication, it sort of does create like a veil of fog between you and reality a lot of the time. So you become, if you've got like big financial problems and problems with family and stuff, by drinking or doing drugs or medication, it makes you feel better about it. So you're not actually doing anything to resolve the problem.
Absolutely.
And these things get worse and worse. And how do you cope with things getting worse and worse? You're doing more and more of, and these things that you're doing create their own problems in itself. So IEMT allows people to look at what the actual problems are. It's an exploration of the problem, and then you can make better informed decisions rather than just trying to escape whatever it might be and be in denial about things. And life is hard, life is tough. You have to have tough conversations. You've got to have, you've got to do these things. And so I get this all the time. I can't do this because I have anxiety, or yeah, I feel depressed. Or go out. If you feel depressed, the best thing you can do is go out. I don't want to. Well, what do you want? It's like, if just telling somebody. Now, I'm not trying to belittle it, because depression's awful, and
Mm.
especially at the moment, we've got an awful lot of it kind of going
Yeah.
on.
Absolutely.
But I do believe there is so like I say, I've got friends who are GPs, and my friend this main guy says, an awful lot of people who come to see me should sort themselves out and not have to come and see me.
Yeah.
They're coming to see me because they've got financial problems and worrying and stuff. Why are they coming to a doctor? I'm a medical doctor.
Yeah.
So I think there is a big spectrum of mental health. And I think there are certain very serious conditions. And then I think there's an awful lot of what's in vogue, to say what's to have. And
Mm.
people often use this, oh, I can't do this because of my mental health,
Yeah.
And I was like, but it's creating kind of quite weak people in a sense. And I know that sounds
Mm.
awful, but it's true. I can't do this because I have depression or I'm anxious and stuff. Oh, yeah. And it's okay to feel bad about things.
Yeah. But we're sort of talking about responsibility here, aren't
Mm,
we? So self-responsibility.
mm.
And there's lots of things we can do if we take some action. Definitely.
Do you know, I saw something. It was one of these. I don't know who it was. She was I don't know what she does. I think she was on Love Island, and the way is Essex, Only Way is Essex, or something like that. And she's an entrepreneur. And this is how ridiculous the world is right now. They said to her, "What is the secret to all this?" And she said, "Hard work." And she's been chastised and really going, "Well, it's okay for you saying this, but I might." And it's like, you can't even say that working hard is good for you because other people might not be in a position to work hard. And it's like, what's going on?
It's a crazy world, man. It's a
It's
crazy
But the
world.
thing is, we're setting up a real strange dichotomy. We're not teaching people life skills. We're medicating rather than
Yeah.
teaching people how to do things. And
Yeah.
I just think that, you know, I was brought up in the north of England, where I think things are much more. Well, you've got to do this. I don't want to. You have to. This is,
Mm.
it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
But I think that now we're just, it's just far too sort of, I don't know, protected from.
Mollycoddled.
It's like when I used to go to school, little smallest violin just playing. I lived, I think, 16 miles away from my school. So
Wow.
every morning I had to get up about 7. I had to get a train, which
Wow.
was a half an hour train from my village to this town where I went to school. I then had to walk a mile or so to the school
Mm.
every single day of my school life, starting at age 11. Now people go to school, they get dropped off in the Chelsea
Yeah.
tracks, and
They do.
I just think that we're creating very weak societies, and we're allowed this whole effect and cause. And what we're having here now is this whole, rather than working for something and doing something, people just expect it because they believe that they are worth it, and they're going to manifest it somehow. And
Yeah,
there's a big industry about positive thinking,
there is.
and it's making lazy, stupid people feel important and clever a lot of the time. And I don't mean that to belittle, but it is, and that's how they sell it. You deserve to have a Ferrari. No, you don't. No one deserves to have a Ferrari, especially someone who doesn't work and sits at home thinking that the universe is going to deliver one.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous. Instant gratification. It's not just instant gratification, which I believe a lot of it is, of course, but a lot of it is just about people just don't have a sense of realism on their life, but they can now distance life by, the biggest thing, your phone. You
I mean,
don't speak to anyone at all.
it's just so easy nowadays, and I'm a firm believer in that. I'm constantly creating my future in the moment, and I can manifest things, but I have to work hard. You have to put effort in. You have to have commitment. You have to have all these different things for it to all come together. Do you know what I mean? It's
I'll tell you what, a little story about that. So I used to run this thing called Interesting. Well, I still do to a degree. And it was one of the biggest, I think it was the biggest self-development meetup group in the world. It's got 25,000 members. And I used to do usually 2 or 3 sold-out events every week. And I was doing this one event, and this guy comes up to me who was really into his self-development, shook my hand really too hard, kind of made mad eye contact, was wearing like a very sort of high-end suit to a pub tour. Anyway, he's like, "So good to see you." I was like, "It's not. It's all right to see, but it's not good."
That extreme again.
It's just like, stop it. And he just goes to me, "So tell me, what's your secret about the success behind this event?" And all right, okay. So I started doing this when I was, I think, about 19. I used to run band nights where I didn't know what I was doing. I just learned the hard way. I had to carry the gear up and down the stairs, sort all that out. And then I started running business networking events. And then I started doing these events, and I've done 500, well, I've done maybe 400 by now, where I go out, I promote it, I work hard, I work really, really hard on the format and getting the speakers right and treating all the audience right. And every time I do it, I try and do it a little bit better. And do you know what he said to me? He goes, "Oh, so it's not an affirmation you just say in the mirror?"
You're kidding me. Yeah.
Well, this is what people think. This is when they say, "I want to install some powerful beliefs." Get out. IEMT is not going to help you install anything powerful, but it can help with the negative.
Absolutely. The stuff
because if you work on the negative, you suddenly don't need to be powerful anymore. It's okay to just be okay.
Yeah, exactly. And that's pretty much me as well, Matt. I'm like that, Try to be, I like a sense of balance, I don't like to go too far up here or too low down there. And if I do find myself going up there, I recognize it.
Yeah. And I find that when I work with people doing IEMT, so say their emotional range is sort of like this, very, very up and down, it really brings it down, essentially. More from the lower than the higher, but their emotional range is much more controlled. Much more in control. So it's being in control of your own emotions and reactions and responses to the world.
And this is going to change your life, basically, especially if it's something that's really, being triggered all the time and affecting your home life and everything else.
Well, people have had their problems for so long, they think that change isn't possible. And let's say it can be. Rather than it is, it can be.
Fair enough.
And if you go onto my YouTube channel, which is just YouTube / I think it's IEMT Practitioner. Pretty sure it is.
I'll put the link.
Yeah, so it's IEMT Practitioner. Recording. I've got hours of conversations with past clients who have who I've worked with. I haven't got as many on there as I used to, but there's still quite a few on there, and you can listen to how people have changed their lives. And also I've got hours, I think I've got 50 conversations with therapists who've been through the training.
Yeah.
We've had a conversation about the training and how they've then gone and used it and done stuff. Because again, IEMT is not showy. It's not about showing off. It's about working with people who have problems, especially with chronicity. So when we say chronicity, it's just why people stuck. Why haven't they got past this? And just helping people with those kind of issues and helping them actually get results in life. Actually, and I always say that IEMT is like having a shower, so you can have a big workout, get all sweaty and muddy and dirty and whatever. You can have a shower.
I'm going to pinch some of these.
You do. You steal them. You steal them.
I like
So
it.
once you've had this shower, what are you going to do? Are you going to go back and put all those muddy clothes back on and do what you're doing? Or are you going to put different clothes on and change what you're doing? So I believe IEMT really is like that transition. It's not just a transition, it's an opportunity for somebody to change. It's an opportunity. So that's why when you mix it with coaching, your results are just incredible. Because you're helping that change. When I see a client, I don't do coaching. I do change work, and I only see people for like 2 sessions. But I like the worse the person is, the more I can help them in that sense. So I like to work with people who have been really messed up by something, an accident, a relationship breakdown, witnessing something which is burnt into their retinas, or those kind of, when the people who I don't like working with is like, so what's wrong? I don't know, just what do you want? Just jellyfish people, they have no sort of sense of direction. They just go where the current goes. I can't really do anything for these people. This is not a motivational goal setting type of thing. It's working with trauma, really, working with trauma of, personality and identity, and how to relieve them of this, so they can therefore begin to build themselves in the present and therefore create a better future.
Fantastic. And I put your website up there, Matt. I've got that correct, haven't I?
You have. I am changing it from IEMT Academy to IEMT Practitioner Training.com.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got all them. IEMT Practitioner Training. If you Google IEMT, I'll come up pretty much everywhere anyway. But if people want to contact me, just Matt, MATT, at IEMTacademy.com. I'm on Instagram. I don't really do anything on Instagram, to be honest. And I'm on Facebook. My username on Facebook, I think, is IEMT Practitioner. I've also got a group on there, IEMT Help. I should know these things. I think it's IEMT Help. I recently had my Facebook hacked, and so I've been rebuilding everything. That was fun.
Traumatic.
I don't know the half of it. So it's called IEMT Group. Right, IEMT Group.
Okay.
And if you go on there, you can actually chat with me. I do Facebook Lives in there, usually 2 or 3 times a week as well. And I do trainings. So I haven't got anything booked in as of yet. I've been delayed again, but basically I'm waiting to have some. They're not even big operations. They're just it's a general anesthetic, so I'm going to be a bit groggy for a while, but I don't know when it's going to be, so I haven't been booking them in as regularly. So I did one last weekend. I will be doing more. Usually I do them once a month, and it's a 2-day training, and it's from 9:30 till 5 on both days. There's quite a lot of pre-work, well, not loads, but basically you prepare for the course and bring the stuff that you want to work on yourself, because you get to do an awful lot of work on your own, or on your own.
On yourself,
on yourself, sorry, that's better way of saying. And then you basically do a couple of case studies afterwards and submit those. You can then become a practitioner. And if people want, if you go onto IEMTacademy.com, if you can actually go onto, you can sign up for the emails and that kind of, or just contact me. I'm also on LinkedIn as Matt Kendall, I think.
Okay.
I am. I need to get a tighter control.
You're definitely about anyway. You're definitely about. Yeah, find you in most of them places.
Yeah, I sort of knock around.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that there will be a lot of therapists watching this as well, because I'm connected.
Oh yeah, if you're a therapist, definitely get in contact with me, because adding this into your clinic is amazing. Does anyone have any questions at all? I know that we've run a bit over, but does anyone have any? Are there any questions before we finish?
Any questions?
I hope people have enjoyed this.
I'm sure they have, Matt. I've really enjoyed it. I think it's, like you said earlier on at the beginning of the chat, it's really important that more people know about this modality.
Yeah. And what's great about it is that, you can learn this, and then you can work with other people, maybe not your friends and stuff, but, it's the tools, some of the tools and techniques are, because in the actual training, there are 7 main techniques. 4 of them are to do with eye movements and 3 aren't. So the other ones to do with body language, and I won't go into it, but basically there are several techniques that don't even involve moving the eyes at all. So,
and I have to say, anyone that does train with Matt, there's a great aftercare system, keeping you on top of what you've learned.
Yeah.
And lots of lives. Really good support group, Matt. Really good.
Yeah. So basically, there's a WhatsApp group that I create for each training, which I'm in. I'm just watching. In fact, there's quite a lot of messages I need to get back to. Oh wow, God. Yeah, that's a long thing. I won't read that. So there's a WhatsApp group for you and your peers, which I also join. I might make a larger one for everyone. I don't know yet. So I've got 5 on the go at the moment. So, and people ask questions late at night, so I have to mute all of them and just go on 3 times a day. There's a Facebook group, and when you ask a question, I usually do a video response, like a video live to it. And also in the group, there's loads of practitioners and trainers, so you'll actually get the input of different people as well. I offer email support. I do a monthly. I say it's probably going to go twice monthly, like a live, like not live, but like a private Zoom for all those who've done the training to ask questions or want more demonstrations and stuff like that. I'm also going to create a home study course, which I need to film and stuff. That's not soon, is it? Let's be honest. That's going to happen this year.
Wow, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, so you can actually train at home. To become a practitioner, you do need to attend an actual live training.
Yeah.
But there will be discounts if you do one or the other, whatever it might be. We will work it out. But no, it's a very good value course. And there's also, of course, there's other trainers as well. You don't have to train with me. There are other trainers. I like my training because I've designed my training like the kind of training I'd want to go to.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought your training was fantastic, Matt. And there's lots of people who've gone through your training on YouTube talking about your training. So if you want to get an insight into Matt's training, go on his YouTube channel. There's lots of opportunities there to
50 interviews with different types of people. And on my LinkedIn, I think there's 75 recommendations now. I did have 35 5-star reviews on Facebook, but I lost them because when I lost my account, I lost that. But there's a few more on there. Like I say, do your research, and if it's something that is of interest to you, drop me, and we'll chat about it. And if I don't think you're right for the course, I'll say you're not right for the course. But you know, it's 2 days out of your life that can not only change your life but hundreds of other people.
Absolutely, and that's the key. Matt, we've come to the end, and I've really enjoyed it. It's been fascinating. I'm sure it's been fascinating for everyone watching, and we're going to get people watching it afterwards as well.
Cool.
So it will be on YouTube there. And what can I say except thank you for being with us tonight.
If anyone has any just questions about IEMT, please just drop me an email. We'll go, you won't respond. I will. I will. I'll just sit here, send and receive. Now I've got my email fixed. Yeah, if you have any other questions about IEMT, again, do check out my videos because there's hours of content that you can watch, or if it's a specific question, just drop me an email.
Fantastic. So thank you everyone for watching tonight. If you're watching it on YouTube for the first time, my channel, like and share and subscribe, because that way we get out to more people. So lots more people can see, what sort of different therapies are available out there to help them. And that's it. Fantastic.
Cool. Well, thank you for inviting me on.
It's been a pleasure. So see you all next week, everybody. I can't remember who I've got on next week. I normally talk about
it. There, shouldn't you? I'll see you all next week. Good night.
It's no big problem. It's all right. I'm going to do a couple of Facebook lives talking about it anyway. I feel awful though. No, I don't.
How strong is that feeling? Awful.
Exactly. Right. Do some therapy. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week at 8 o'clock on Thursday. And God bless you all.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.